Hey guys, it's your girl Cameron and I'm back at it again with another video. And today we are going to be reacting to some of y'all's wildest R&B takes. When I mean y'all, I mean Twitter. I was scrolling through Twitter recently and I saw this thread and a lot of people had a lot to say. Now, if this is your first time here, hey, what's up, welcome. But if you've been around for a minute, you might have known that I did a current state of R&B video a while back, and I already gave my perspective and my opinion. So I was thinking, well, I might as well react to other people since I've kind of given my standpoint and my take. So we're just gonna go through a bunch of different tweets, kind of in different categories of these unpopular opinions or wildest takes. Please like, comment down below. Do you agree with some of these, or do you also have any wildest takes of your own? Comment those down below and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more content like this. I got you. Without further ado, let's just get straight into the video. Let's go. Let's see what the streets are saying. We've all probably heard this when talking about this argument, but the church. So someone said R&B isn't good in mass anymore because this generation wasn't going to church to develop that soulful sound. You're either got singer-rappers or monotone voices. Only a few new artists don't fit into this category. And another one reads, our departure from gospel as a staple Black musical genre has affected the way we create R&B. Both genres are dependent on each other, feel uninspired at the moment. This constant idea of the church. I watched a video and I will link it or put the video on the screen here. You guys should all go watch it. But this content creator broke down the whole argument of why aren't singers singing the way that they used to, right? It's a very different dynamic, but he basically chalked it up to one, back then, a lot of people just got their hours in. They were singing in school, they were singing in church, and they got the practice in the hour. Because you don't necessarily always just get a crazy voice like that out of nowhere. You have to practice. There's a sense of mastery. And also another point is people were saying that a lot of youth and Black youth are steering away from the church as it is. We're not going as much as we used to. We're not in that environment. And maybe we don't believe in the conservative ideologies that Christianity presents, especially in a church setting. So I think those are very detailed and reasonable explanations as to why. However, I've always said, yes, it's nice to have those take you to church voices. They can be kind of hard to come by. However, I would argue that always in the industry, we've had powerhouses and we had softer vocals. Now, if you go watch my previous video, I give a lot of examples of this dichotomy that has always, in my opinion, existed. Somebody like Janet Jackson. Janet Jackson can sing, listen to anytime, any place. The way Love Goes, very soft, very chill. A word that you can kind of find synonymous with what people would describe R&B music as today. You look at somebody like Tamia who can sing. To me, she wasn't a belter. That people nowadays kind of erase. The church aspect does not bother me because typically in my music, I like a bit of a softer tone. That's what I prefer. And that's even when I'm listening to my 90s and my 80s music, etc. So that's the whole take on the church. What do y'all think about that? Do you think that that's like a staple requirement for R&B? Like we are really lacking it? Or do you just feel like it's kind of evolved and the sound is just a little different? So now the dreaded, the beloved, the annoying argument about nostalgia. Nostalgia in the genre. So it's so funny because half the people screaming that the 90s.
Just shut up and leave it.
The 90s were this, the 90s were that.
Half of us aren't even clearing 25. So I do think the nostalgia thing is a bit of a cliche and it's a little delusional. Somebody said, don't speak on 90s music if you only know Can We Talk, Weak, and Candy Rain. Prime example, half the people screaming nostalgia only know like 3 songs. And then somebody brought up the point to add on, there's an obsession with trying to emulate the past, an issue that I've noticed in pop culture. There isn't any uniqueness to what the artists are trying to do. They want to make something quick and digestible to the ears and the radio. Nothing they enjoy. I think it's artists adjusting to the new landscape, which consumers we contribute to, but labels contribute to as well. But I wouldn't say that there's anything wrong with digging into the past. There have been a lot of singers now who try to rely on this nostalgic sound and feeling, which does resonate with a few of us. So I think it's very smart. But people argue that there's a lack of originality. But in the 90s, you could argue if you look back at that time, a lot of people are mimicking a lot of the same sounds, tones, etc. It's the same thing repeated, copy and pasted. We're just in a different era. Like somebody said, nostalgia is influencing a lot of what people consider real R&B. Let people have fun and try new shit. I agree. Another one that's in this category, but someone said that 2000s R&B is fucking garbage and is solely fueled by nostalgia. That's the first time I've ever heard anybody say anything remotely negative about early 2000s music. So I think that's a pretty wild take. Recently I've been in my kick listening to all my 2000s R&B lately because those remind me of my childhood, what my parents were kind of starting to listen to, what I was starting to listen to. And I have to disagree. I feel like with age, I realize this music is a lot deeper and I think a lot better because I understand it now. I don't just listen to that music when I want to feel nostalgic. I listen to it because I actually feel like it's good music. However, a lot of my early 2000s R&B will consist of Mariah Carey, Brian McKnight, Brandy, Robin Thicke. I don't know. I don't agree with that at all. I think early 2000s music is... So that is the dreaded nostalgia conversation. Glad we got that squared away out the way. Please stop using this as your only argument on why you think R&B sucks today. The next bit is on R&B musical components. So each genre has a different set of customs or a formula that makes up a song. It might be a beat, it might be a certain instrument, it might be maybe the lyricism. So a lot of people had a lot to say about this. Someone said, Nia was right. This generation of R&B artists aren't doing it as it should be done. It's now more about sex than love. Someone also says heavy cussing is not needed. It's an R&B track, so it doesn't sound right to me. So I want to focus on the first portions about the cussing and the subject matter. If you listen to a lot of old school R&B music, and we're not just talking about 90s, but even 80s, maybe even like late 70s, there's a lot of sexual music. Now, I think maybe what this person is saying is the overt nature of it is a lot more vulgar, especially in an R&B song, which we're not as used to seeing that. In R&B, it's more like a serenade, or it's more like a making love, not like... And also the cussing, I notice that sometimes too. As long as it's not excessive in the song, it doesn't bother me. But I really don't think I listen to anybody who cusses that crazy. But sometimes when you drop an F-bomb, especially in like an R&B song when it's not necessary, I think in my head, oh, I could have probably added this lyric and this lyric or whatever to give it a little more meaning, value, etc. So very few R&B artists have a distinct sound. There was a time where you could tell who you were listening to just by listening to the opening line. Now multiple singers have the same tone, same singing style, they cover similar beats. Few artists feel special anymore. I agree with this to an extent. They're trying to feed a market. Everything is a lot more competitive and it's a lot more numbers based. So a lot of artists, unfortunately, are just focusing on the commodification of their art versus what they want to post. And actually, Kehlani the other day made a post saying, I'm here to tell you as an artist, do what you love, not just what it is because of the stream. The monetary goal is to please the masses. Do what feels authentic to you. But I have to say there's a few singers who I'm like, wait, who am I listening to? But Mariah the Scientist, sometimes when she sings, she sounds like LMA. And I'm like, I don't like always thinking about someone else. Somebody even says SZA and Summer, we know industry music is not all about the art. It's about what sells. So everybody's gonna hop on the wave. Now this is a great point. Somebody said alternative R&B isn't meant to deliver the same as R&B. People keep complaining about R&B nowadays, but that's because you're listening to a subgenre. Late night vibes is a trend, but isn't all that there is. Many R&B artists who do more traditional. 100%, 3000% agree. Thank you. People don't think about subcategories and genres. So I guess you could say that I do like the alternative R&B style. Then you have like a more soulful or a funk or a jazz. There's different categories and I agree. I think people do mix that up and there should be a distinction. And I do a lot of music hunting, especially on Apple Music, online, and there are a lot of different tastes, sounds, subgenres that you can find that are better suited for your style. Let's highlight those artists then. If that's something you want them to be more mainstream, or if we control the culture, we shift the culture. So a lot of us are responding to the alternative, whether it's good or bad. It's like, okay, if you don't love it, art is subjective, music is subjective, find a subgenre that you like, or just listen to old music. This one said trap soul and trap R&B has to be one of the worst developments in Black culture. Bryson Tiller. First off, that Bryson Tiller trap soul album, I think we were all there in like 2015. Yeah, it changed the game, right? It's not quite alternative, but literally trap soul became somewhat of a genre. I don't think it's the worst thing, but I do think it creates a like a blurred line between rapping with the trap beats, and maybe that's an annoyance for some people, and that kind of brings people into the instrumentation is lacking in a lot of R&B music today. Someone says stop making these songs 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Agreed. Period. Write more lyrics. Agreed. I think that we could tap in a lot more. Also, 3, bring back bridges. Tick, 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 boom. All of these components. I agree, bridges are what makes R&B so special, especially with the harmonizing. And I think we lack that sometimes. When I feel a good bridge, baby, that sells the song. If you have a good bridge to me, I'm listening to the song throughout until I get to that point. And I do notice that there is a bit of lacking. And I think that's because a lot of these songs are short as hell. There were R&B songs back in the day that used to be 4 or 5 minutes long. And I think, again, that shift happened because attention spans are a lot shorter. So if you drop a 5-minute song like they used to, or the instrumental at the beginning is a minute, listen to any Luther Vandross song, thank you. People just don't have that attention span. However, that is a component of an earlier style that I like more with the R&B, because it gives you a chance to introduce the track, to appreciate the instrumental. The next part we're going to talk about is image and Black women. So the image and the face. Who are the faces of R&B right now? Somebody said, R&B will never be what it was or all that it can be, with men left in charge of finding all the talent. Just rename the genre rigid and biracial if that's all we're going to get. Marketing/artist branding sells everything, especially for R&B artists. So if your image doesn't reflect an experience people can visually connect to, you'll be slept on until it does, no matter what your music sounds like or how talented you are. First and foremost, marketing artist, right? Talking about your image and aesthetic, I think directly correlates to this first one, talking about renaming the genre rigid and biracial. I do think that is a dominant image in society, at least in the Black community. And I think maybe some of these girls don't even really need as much of an aesthetic because their phenotype, how they look, is literally the aesthetic. And when I think of people saying rigid and biracial, I love some of these artists to death, but I think people are discussing the Kailanis, Jhené Aiko, Kiana Lede, Ella Mai, Snow Allegra, Georgia Smith, Sabrina Claudia. Love some of them. I really do. Some of them are like my favorite artists. But overwhelmingly, it is taking that look in space. But I'd argue a lot of them are very talented, so I would never take that away from them. But that is something to think about. Someone said, niggas gotta start dating Black women again so their music can be good, and putting brown skin and dark skinned Black women in music videos. I think that's kind of funny. You know, that's an opinion that is kind of more of like a jokey kind of statement, but she's like dead ass. Putting brown skin and dark skinned Black women in music videos. You know, interestingly enough, recently, don't ask me the videos, but quite a few of the videos I've been seeing, hip hop videos, R&B videos, been quite a lot of brown and dark skinned Black women in some of these videos. And I was pleasantly surprised, which, you know, to have to be pleased about something like that is kind of pathetic, but we don't get that often. Kind of like back in the early 2000s, you did see a lot of variety, right? Like brown to darker to, of course, lighter to different races, but you did see a lot more brown and dark skin baddies. I definitely think that fizzled off a little bit, but recently I have been seeing more brown and dark skin. So maybe we're getting back to that root. Maybe we're getting back there. Lastly, a lot of non-Black R&B artists do a lot of vocal blackface, and people eat it up because they enjoy Black people's music only when non-Black artists sing. I think this statement can be said for any aspect of our culture, not just R&B. If you're non-Black, you'll get praised for doing something that Black people so often naturally do. Vocal blackface, I think that's a term to unpack, but some people just sound how they sound. I genuinely like JoJo, for example. I feel like she's always sounded how she sounded. That one girl, Mackenzie, the one who makes those TikToks and she's singing, I feel like she sounds how she sounds. I can't think of many white artists in the space right now who do vocal blackface, unless if she's maybe considering biracial people as non-black. I think with the sound and the tone, I think there's a style that can definitely be associated to a race, 100%. Like singing in the church, that gospel singing definitely begins with black people. But there's always going to be people who fall or outliers, like the Tina Marie's, like I said, the JoJo's, etc. There's going to be people who just have that voice and they're not necessarily trying to benefit off of it. That's just how they sound. And our last section, the fun one, we're going to start looking at some unpopular opinions of specific artists. So somebody said, not really a wild take, but Janet, Aaliyah, and Sade are godmothers of alternate R&B. This is why I say go back to the 90s and the 80s, and you will see that there were singers who were ushering a softer tone that was very mute. This didn't just pop out of nowhere and people aren't just doing this. Those people are a huge inspiration. When you watch a lot of interviews from R&B artists today, they usually say Janet, they'll say Aaliyah, and Sade. I hear that all the time. Somebody said Summer is not who y'all think she is. I like Summer. I like Summer's music a lot. Do I think there was a certain pizzazz and like this untapped gem, especially before she blew up 100%? I think she really filled a space in R&B that was kind of missing. She had this modern sound, but this soul. I really do like her new stuff though. I do. I think that her last album was great. No skits. I understand. I think on the performance front, she lacks. I've seen her live. Not a great performer. And I don't think she always sounds the same as she does on the track. But recording studio-wise, which some of y'all will get at me too, because what happened to live singers? But recording studio-wise, I think that she is who we think she is. And I think that she's dope. And I think she gives different vibes. She has something for the soul girlies, something for the pop R&B girlies, for the alternative girlies. Like, she hit a bit of every aspect. Someone said Aaliyah's slightly overrated. I'm so sorry. Don't hate me, please. Actually, I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad. I like some of her iconic songs, of course. Like, who doesn't? When she passed away, I was really young, so I didn't experience her sound and ushering it in. And I tried to go back and listen to more of Aaliyah's discography, and it just didn't click for me. I was like, well, a puzzle piece is missing because everybody's like this. She would have been bigger than Beyonce if she was, I think maybe if she hadn't passed away, people would feel a bit differently and would probably talk more openly about her music and how they feel. Somebody said Jhené Aiko is the worst thing to happen to R&B since the New Jack Swing era ended. I think people think of Jhené Aiko as monotone. Again, these were things people were saying in the R&B component section of the video. The monotone nature of the voice, the indistinction, the lack of ad-libs, the lack of runs, the lack of vibrato, the lack of this grandiose voice. I think Jhené Aiko embodies that for a lot of people. But I think her audience and her music is very purposeful, and there's definitely an audience for it. And I think that it's brilliant in a lot of ways. Maybe not in the way you guys want it to fit into R&B. So I kind of disagree, but I can understand people's qualms with somebody like Jhené Aiko. Somebody said R&B is not dead. Y'all lazy consumers and refuse to search for upcoming artists. R&B is more than just Jhené, SZA, Summer, Brent Faiyaz. Up-and-coming artists probably wrote songs for your favorite artists. A few other people who have been writing music for stars and are just making their own hits. Victoria Monet was like that for a while, right? And now they're getting recognition as a solo artist. But I 100% agree. People are lazy. You guys talk about y'all change, y'all do this, y'all do that. The reason why they've had to switch it up is because of lazy consumers. Y'all don't want to look for music. Y'all don't want to listen to a full album. You tune out of a song. You barely listen to a song. And then you say you hate it. That's why everybody has to do the trendy shit, because y'all have no type of attention span. The same people complaining, oh, there's nobody out here who's doing it. Nobody da-da-da-da-da. Music has changed so much. Music has had to change because of people like y'all that are lazy consumers. You want everything spoon-fed to you. So, of course, if Jhené, Summer, and SZA have hits, that's what's being spoon-fed. That's what y'all are listening to. Expand your palette. Take your time. Learn a little bit of patience. Listening to music is an art in itself. Experiencing music is a whole different thing in itself. Try it sometime. Because then you would probably be able to find what you're looking for instead of blaming. And this one's funny. Somebody said, Trey Songz sings like a billy goat. Someone else who also sings like a billy goat is Jacquees. And sometimes Bryson Tiller does too. I'm sorry. I usually like Bryson Tiller. The other two, Trey and Jacquees, never been a fan. Even Trey Songz. I didn't really care for Trey Songz. Are you trying to vibrato? Because it sounded like a billy goat. That is the end of this video. I went through a lot. I said a mouthful, but now is your chance to comment down below. What were some of the wildest takes that you heard today? And do you have any of your own? Hit that subscribe button though if you want to see more content like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.